Nigeria.
Yeah, Fela Durotoye, thank you very much. I've welcomed you. This is your first, or more like the first time on the political scene, and I'm sure you're finding it as intriguing as many of us looking at, okay, what's he doing there? We know his face or his move to be in that of motivational speaking, encouraging everyone out there. Beyond that, we know you do so much more. But why the interest in the office of the presidency of Nigeria?
Well, I believe that it's exactly what you have just referred to. It's that thing about us thinking that, you know, oh, these guys are doing great. Fela is a business management consultant. We know him as a leadership expert. We know that he's been able to help transform many organizations and bring them out of loss positions into profit positions. He's helped to grow that. We've seen his amazing work in social impact. You know, the Mushi makeover, you know, transforming 296 houses, galvanizing 2,000 people to paint houses. We know of the work he's done in education, you know, but why would he be coming into politics? And that exactly is the reason why. Is that for so long, we've always thought that, you know, good people should stay in all the different areas and do well, but not politics. And for me, I got tired of pouring water into a basket, which is what everybody that is trying to work hard without, you know, when the nation is not working, right? And I keep saying to you, if we have the highest mortality rate in Nigeria, literally one of the world, then Nigeria is not working. If any child that is born in Nigeria has, you know, only 1 in 5 chance of surviving by the age of 5, meaning by the age of 5, 1 out of every 5 children that is born must die by the age of 5. If those who don't die would have a very tough time getting to school, and if those who get into school will spend much of their time in ASU strike, and if those who then fight a way to survive ASU strike will probably not even be able to get a job, so that now we have over 21 million people that don't have a job. And if those who get a job will probably not get money to go home. And I keep talking about how their take-home doesn't even get them to the bus stop. And even if those who then get enough are literally still being able to struggle to pay school fees. You know, Nigeria is not working for anybody. It's not working for those who need a generator to get power. It's not working for those who need boreholes to get water.
So how do you hope to get this working?
Oh, so the thing about it is that to go from a blessed country, which we undoubtedly are, no doubt one of the most blessed countries, to a great nation, which is where things work for everyone, we just need good governance. And good governance is what happens when good people get into all the levels of government, not just presidency. And that is what exactly my journey into this has been, is to galvanize people into saying, I will do something, rather than just stay on the sidelines and say politics is dirty. We wake up every morning, our bodies are dirty, right? We wash it. Our clothes are dirty, we wash them. Our mouth is dirty, we wash it. If our politics is dirty, we wash it. We wash it with clean people. And that is the journey that I've been on. It's not just the journey about whether getting Fela to become president. It's about getting to a critical mass of people who will run for office, people who are competent, who are capable, people who care for the Nigerian people, who have a love for Nigeria, people who will not go there and steal, who have the character. They will not use immunity to commit acts of impunity. And to cut the very long story short, this is exactly what it is that we've been able to accomplish. We've been able to get people who are standing for the first time and saying, I also will run for office. We've been able to get people who are saying for the first time, I will get my voter's card. We'll be able to get people who are joining political parties for the first time. So it's that getting good people to get involved. That has been the goal. And I'm so proud that even for the first time in Nigeria's electoral history, we now have the highest number of first-time registrations by INEC, 23 million new voters. And that, I'm not accrediting to myself, but I'm saying that is one of the things that we've done. So it's getting good people to deliver good governance, and that's why we're here.
Okay. Well, you're running on the platform Alliance for New Nigeria. What is the spread of your party?
Well, we do have a national spread. And you know, the interesting thing that we always say to people is that today we have to think differently from the way we've always thought. You know, remember what happened to Polaroid? Polaroid used to be that technology where people would take a picture, it will come out. And then when things started going digital, Polaroid said, no, we are #1 in this thing. And I'll tell you what I mean by that, using that Polaroid example. Today, people forget that parties are really supposed to be about ideology. not just about brick and mortar and whether you have offices in. And if you ask most people today, they are tired of this Nigeria the way it is. Ask most people anywhere, they want a new Nigeria. And so the ideology and the spread of the party is really nationwide. I would even say all the way through the diaspora. And people are connecting to the ideology. And so for us, it's a nationwide. We've got nationwide spread in terms of physical presence, but we also have, more importantly, deep grassroots spread in terms of ideological. Everyone wants a new Nigeria.
What kind of conversation are you holding?
I don't want to, I don't want to pose this question to you because the answer we get from others, even the older political parties, isn't quite satisfactory. In terms of numbers, when you say you have a spread and you have an ideology that is penetrated down to the grassroots, the obvious question will be, what is the membership strength of your party? It's a question I don't want to pose, but you may wish to take it.
Yeah, but I would say, no. I mean, it's a good question to always ask. And I would say to you, rather than talk about membership spread, because that's not what it is that determines what gets done. It's the votes. It's the votes that are going to count. We are not in this. Nobody's going to count membership at the end of on February 16. They're going to be talking about how many votes were you able to mobilize. And that really is the question. The question is, if you look at 2015, right? And with the supposedly established parties, right, 96 million Nigerians were above the age of 18. And when you look at all we all agree, I mean, we've reported about it, all the shenanigans that went on in 2015, underage voting, vote buying, ballot snatching and stuffing and all of those things, the established parties, as we call them, the old parties, were only able to mobilize 28 million votes with their national spread, 28 million votes. I mean, look at local government elections. Etiosa local government, which is the local government that, some of the most significant. Yeah. They were only able to get to, between the two of them, 11,694 votes in between the two of them. So what we're saying is that the structure as we know it today and their spread and their power does not reflect in the numbers of the voters that they're able to get. So let's talk about what's really important, and that is ideology. Why do the people not buy into the ideology of the existing old parties? Because they don't have one. Because the ideology is not really one that sets the people. The numbers are there. Now 23 million new people have decided that they're going to vote this time. And most of them had to go out at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to decide to queue and do whatever it takes to get their voter's card for a reason. And that reason is going to show up on February 16. People want a new Nigeria. And the new Nigeria will come February 16. Okay,
as we'll wait the new Nigeria, I know you've been holding, like you said, you're percolating down to the grassroots. And what kind of conversations are the young people talking to you about? What kind of conversation are you holding with the older generation? Because give or take, yes, you're trying to make a new Nigeria, but definitely you still have to have this inclusiveness to both the old order and merging with the new order. What kind of conversation are you holding? Is it just on the social media? Because we're going to know that most of these new parties, it's all over social media. No, so I know it's a good platform.
Yes, and whilst the social media is really a good platform, and the point is this. Most people are concerned about Nigeria the way it is. And most people want something, not just better, they want something completely different, right? When you talk to young people, most of them have lost hope. Most of them have lost hope in the ability for themselves to ever be able to get the opportunities to ever become the things that they want to be. I mean, talk to a student today. Apart from just the horrors of having to stay at home, and they don't even know when the ASU crisis is going to be over, right? Most of them are not. There's horrors about going back to school. We're talking about when I was in uni. I went to Obafemi Awolowo University. It's a public school, right? I didn't go to a private school. Right, we had in our Obafemi Fajri Hall or Awu Hall, we had most rooms that had 6 beds, bedroom. Now we are seeing 16 people in a 6-bedroom room. Students are now having to lie down on mattresses with their head on the mattress and their body on the floor. These are the kind of conversations they're having with me. To say, Fela, come and see the realities. We go there. Their toilets are broken. as in the toilets they're supposed to use, students that are being in universities. Guys, these are the kind of things. You talk to older people, they're talking about the fact that their pension has not been paid. They're talking about the fact that inflation is wiping away their, so there's anxiety about healthcare. How do I pay now that I'm becoming, I'm having to see the doctor? I mean, there was no healthcare insurance. These are the kind of issues that they're talking about. And people know. Let me tell you one of the saddest things that I heard yesterday. A 65-year-old man applying to the Canadian embassy for a student visa. Now, look, you would say, well, Fela, that's good. At least 65-year-old, they're still trying to learn. We know that, no, it's just an escape, In 2004, right, the United Kingdom treated 28,000 student visas. The United Kingdom embassy, right, the British embassy. In 2018, the Canadian embassy treated 100,000 student visas. The brightest and best are trying to run away. That is what we are hearing people say and saying, listen, we need hope right now. And it's not just any flimsy hope, it's real hope that is anchored on real plans. And that's why our plans are anchored on...
Just hang on a second. What then is your agenda?
Right, exactly. Okay. So ASPIRE is an acronym you have put up.
Exactly. The ASPIRE agenda is anchored around creating, first of all, what we call jobs. And jobs is, jobs, getting jobs for people, because people need jobs to be able to earn a living, feed themselves, take care of their families, and be able to live a decent life. The second is that people need opportunities that are acceptable to all. That is not something that, in other words, I don't get a job simply because I know someone. I don't need to know the principal to be able to get my child into school. I don't need to know the doctor to be able to get health care. I need something where it's a merit-driven system and things work. And then people need a business-friendly government that supports businesses not only in starting and growing, but also they need security. Now, if I look at what do we want to do with the ASPIRE, it's investing critical resources into agriculture, that's A. Security, that's S. Power, that's P. Infrastructure, that's R. Reorienting the mind of our people and restructuring our country. And then the E is empowering our people to become, whether it's through businesses, to be able to get employment, but to grow our economy. So that's what the ASPIRE program stands for. And we've said that to be able to execute our ASPIRE agenda, 4 things need to be done. Number 1, we must reduce the wastage in government, which is where so much of our current resources are going. Wastage and corruption, we know it, okay? But if we can take out that wastage instead of having a 30-car convoy, right? Why do you need 30 cars to escort the president from Aso Rock to the airport? Why does, there's so much wastage in terms of padding. We've reported on that. It's not just about the presidency, but it's in the system. But then that's not all. We've got to make sure that apart from reducing the cost of governance, we're going to reform our government agencies, especially, so that they are more efficient and they are able to deliver excellent service and the culture of service delivery to the minds of the people. The third thing that we're going to do is to restructure our country, as we said, looking at 3 key areas: resource control, revenue reallocation, and devolution of powers. And we can talk about that if we have more time. And the last one, like I said, is reorienting our people.
The time is on. Let's break it down.
Yes.
Implementation is always key for most of leaders once they come here. So how do you hope to implement this? Let's take, for instance, aspects of job creation, which is key. Because when people have the jobs, they can actually, the skills you're talking about can be brought to bear. And in your aspiration, you said Nigeria will become an export-led economy with globally competitive private sector.
So there are 3 things that we need to do with jobs. Number 1 is we need to get jobs right now. In other words, create skills that are relevant to the people who need them, okay? So today, if you ask, you're looking for a driver, the question is, where do you go to find a driver? And yet, there are drivers that are looking for work. What we want to do is to make sure that we tidy up our data, what you call our jobs database, right? Of course, that's something that Nigerian Directorate for Employment is mandated to do. But we know that information is not well done. So the first task we have is let's create a clean and efficient database that connects people who are looking for employment to people who need skills. right? That alone, we know from data, will be able to clean up about 3 million jobs right now existing. Okay. The second one is that we are then looking to say, how do we start new businesses? We have a program called Startup Nigeria, which is something that I've been doing, and we're just going to be scaling it up. And we're saying, how do we start up 1 million businesses every year in terms of providing a startup venture capital fund that we will be powering with about $3.6 billion, about 1 trillion naira. And that's not just a startup fund that is only going to be powered by government, but it's going to be also brought. We're bringing in private sector into that fund to make sure that we can start up businesses. So we're starting 1 million businesses, and then we're scaling up 1 million businesses. Scaling up businesses means we're looking to see how to double the revenue and double the employment of 1 million SMEs. SME is the engine of growth for any economy, and that's where we're going to be focusing on.
All right, so Fela Durotoye, thank you very much. Earlier, you made a statement, you made a comment that you don't want to pour water into a basket anymore. And some persons have used that as an analogy to describe our situation. You were talking about numbers, the number of fresh applicants for graduate or undergraduate studies abroad, the number of persons who are obviously jobless, housing needs, and some persons have argued that one of the challenges that we face today is not that jobs are not being created, that opportunities are not being created, but that you are dealing with an exploding population. We are 198, according to the chairman of the National Population Commission, pushing 200. What will you do with this exploding population, and how would that redound on the other aspects of your agenda?
You know, one of the things we found out is that population explosion anchors on two major things. All right. Number one is that the lower let me put it this way: the higher the level of learning and education, usually lower the number of children that they typically would like to have. The second thing that we find out is that the higher the income level, the lower the number of children. These are trends that we're talking about. So let me now reverse that and say we found out that poorer people are likely to have more children than richer people, because in one case they are hoping to spread their own risk and say at least one of them. And then they sometimes said, look, you know, when that is the only way you can get some kind of consolation for yourself, you find out that. So we've seen the trend. Two things that must happen. As we grow a prosperous Nigeria, you have to reorient the people and talk about the quality of life and begin to drive the concept of family management and family planning deep into the hearts of people, to understand that it is better for you to have fewer children, that you can give a better quality of life. That's one dimension. So there's reorientation that needs to go in that dimension, because you can't force people to say. And then there are other incentives, as we have seen in China, that if you have a particular number of children, there are certain subsidies that you're able to get on your first 2 or 3 children going to school free of charge. Or, there are things that you can put in place, and we will put in place, to make sure that people have this sense of it is not the number of children that matters. And because that's a cultural thing for us in Nigeria. For some of us, it's also, religious, But the point is, if you look at the most successful people in any culture, you'll find out that they don't really have many children. When they begin to speak up, those who are less successful will begin to look at them and say, okay, maybe it's better for me not to have more than 2 or 3 children. We begin to use entertainment. You use Nollywood to drive that messaging. We will change the mind of people, because only a reorientation can change a cultural norm like how many children I want to have.
Well, the children are here already. For those who are here, it big mention of 198 according to data available to us. So, for a black nation like us, we're told that's an advantage for us, but deploying it appropriately.
It is an advantage when we skill them, when they are useful, when they are productive.
So how do you hope to scale up on that?
Okay, so there are 3 things about skilling, and that's number 1 is head. I always talk about it. It's at the head, the heart, and the hands. Okay, today the head is really about talking about education and making sure that education is designed in a way where it is not just about getting a certificate. You've got to be able to frame your educational system in a way that is useful to essentially the business world, the corporate world, the market, so that and three things you have to do with education to ensure from primary school, where the child has the opportunity to learn ABC and 1, 2, 3, they must also learn the values. But then those values you have to take all through the educational system. So you work on teachers and make sure that you have good teachers that would love to teach the children, not just people who are there because they don't have any other job. Then number two, you're going to invest in infrastructure and make sure that the child has a proper learning environment, right? And number three, you're going to invest in the curriculum and make sure that the curriculum is suited for the market. Very practical example. One of the things I keep saying is today, if you go to most of the banks hire people who have passed their aptitude test and all of that, and then take them through 10 weeks of learning things like credits, how to write credits, and all the different things that you go through in banking. The question is, why don't we get the bankers to create the curriculum for banking and finance in school? So that it is, by the time anyone comes through school, you are ready for use to the market. That's the kind of thing when I talk about teachers, infrastructure, and curriculum. And then with vocational institutions and creating a platform where those who would like to gain skills are going to be able to be given the opportunity. Let me give you one I know time is almost up. Let me give you one last quick one. There's a very special program that we have today that is looking at linking homelessness and joblessness together and solving both of them. And what we're doing is we're creating a platform where we create shelters that are one-night beddings, but you can only access them if you're willing to come through a free program that trains you so that you learn on skills like carpentry, plumbing, and all that. If you're willing to learn and go through, then you would have access to a bed. And so what happens is that you learn, and then you have access to a bed. So you're taken off the street, but you have already acquired skills that will help you to get a job, because we need to build over the next 4 years 3.75 million houses.
How do you hope to do that?
Yeah, I was just wondering. Fela Durotoye, you're running to be president of the Federal Republic. Yes. Federal means the federation. Yes. And the ideas you're articulating now, if you became president, will be at the federal level. And sometimes you see the tension that obtains between the national and subnational governments. How might you seek to percolate these ideas down if you were president of the Federal Republic?
So one of the very great advantages of the kind of role and experience that I have had as a leadership coach is that in my job over the many years, I've had to coach leaders who do not necessarily report to me. In other words, I'm shaping CEOs. They don't report to me. But by the reason of the fact that I'm their coach, I'm able to speak a language to them that shapes their vision, that shapes their goals, and is able to get them to be able to do the things that they need to do. The governors don't report to the president, but the president has to be able to coach them. And so, for the first time in Nigeria, we will probably see a coaching relationship between the federal and the state and the local, where it is not a lordship, bow down before the president. That's not what anybody needs. Each one of these federating units are duly elected by their people. Today, we see that local government chairmen are literally, special advisors or special assistants to the governor. It's wrong. What we should see is that you are all equals, but you only have been given jurisdictions of varying areas. So you have been given a jurisdiction over a nation, you have been given jurisdiction over a state, you have been given jurisdiction over a local government. But that doesn't make me greater than you. So it's that coaching relationship that I will bring to the table.
Allied to that is the R aspect of your Aspire. You talked about restructuring, yes, revenue formula, and the other R's that are relevant to your Aspire. Let's take off from, say, revenue allocation. If you were president, what would be your proposal?
Well, our proposal is very simple. It's to say 20% of our revenue should go to the communities that we drive or derive the resources from. 20% should go to the local government. 20% should go to the state. And the federal government should work with 40%. Which means the federal government has much less to work with, which is why you also then need devolution of powers. Because if you empower the states, now you need to give them more responsibility, as it were, which they are willing to take on in any case, which include things like security, right? Now, today we have a the governor as the chief security officer of the state, but he doesn't even have a police force that is under his command to be able to direct and see to quick response of to security issues. So what we and a very practical example of, as it relates to this revenue allocation, there is a state in 11 states in Nigeria have gold. 28 local governments, gold can be found in them. There's one of them that I always love to use. The example is called Ikbenido. Ikbenido is in Atakumosa East local government of Osun State. Ikbenido has 7 gold basins, okay? One of the gold basins in Ikbenido has over 1 million ounces of gold, proven reserves. 1 ounce of gold is going for $1,232, meaning in 1 ounce, one basin in Ikbenido, they have over $1.2 billion worth of gold, right? That's in 1 out of 7. Now, what we're saying is Ikbenido should get, if we take gold from Ikbenido, give Ikbenido 20% of the value, so that, because there's degradation that happens when you take something, but you need to fix. So build infrastructure back to Ikbenido and get them to enjoy power and light and houses and schools and healthcare. Those are infrastructure. And then give 20% to Atakumosa East local government, and then 20% to Osun State. And then, in doing that, you realize every community all across Nigeria is now inspired to begin to see, how do we find what it is that we have? And they all know. They know what they have already. Because right now there's illegal mining going on all across Nigeria. Why is illegal mining going on? Because the community does not get anything back from the current revenue allocation structure, which is give only 13% back to the state. Doesn't even necessarily get to the local government and does not get to the communities. So what we are saying is, God blessed that community for the sake of the people. So let the people also enjoy from the revenue of the resources.
All right, Mr. Durotoye, all this can only be secured when we have a safe environment. What are you doing about security, or what do you hope to do with security architecture generally to preserve these opportunities as well as draw closer investments, even as you want, from everywhere?
So there are 5 key things that need to be done with security, and anybody in the world, across the world, will tell you there are 5 key mandates with securing the lives and property of the people, which is the first thing that every government must be able to do. Number 1 is you must strengthen your institutions. Number 2 is you must work on intelligence and make sure that you are more intelligent than those who are trying to attack you. Number 3, you must work with integrating your agencies so that you can share intelligence and integrating them with the community so that they can give you feedback as quickly as possible, even ahead of any attacks. Number 4 is that you must work with the international community, because much of what happens as security threats are not localized. They are always, I talk about the fact that, for instance, every time we put pressure on Boko Haram, they run across the border. But the question is, why isn't there a team, on the other hand, that is going to sandwich them, okay, and make sure that then we're able to contain them? So this happens all the time. It tells to the weakness of that international collaboration. The last one is ideology. So in terms of fixing our institutions, you must do the following things. You must train your men to be the brightest and best that they can be. You must equip them. And then you must motivate them and reward them well. And then you must treat your fallen soldiers with such great dignity and honor that anybody would not mind ever, knowing fully well my family will be taken care of. And that's all part of motivation, right? But they must be properly led. They must be incredibly inspired. And that they must see from the appointments that you make. Those appointments must not be done based on, are you my brother, are you my cousin, are you from my town? So you have to strengthen your institutions. With intelligence, you must make sure that you are more intelligent than today I keep talking about the fact that how is it that Boko Haram knows where our own military bases are? Why do they know when we are having movements? And yet we don't know when they're moving. We need to be more intelligent than them. Okay.
All right. Just before we sign you off, because you talked about education as a critical adjunct of your agenda. Part of the crisis of public tertiary education in Nigeria today has to do with funding.
Absolutely. How
will you tackle that?
Well, it's reallocation of resources, and you reallocate your resources based on the value that you place on something. Today, government is only spending 7.06% of our budget on education. And that is just whatever you value, you invest in. That only speaks to the value that our government is placing on education. right? So, you know, this is one of the, we are going to be putting, within the first year, we're moving that to 15%. So we're doubling the amount of money that is going into education. And so that, for me, is the most important thing. But I always say it this way. We must ensure that those who lead us are not the people who place the least value on education. And one of the ways you will always know who is placing the least value on education is how much have they chosen to educate themselves. We shouldn't be talking about whether the president has WAEC result or not WAEC result, not in a time like this when we should be talking about people with master's degrees, we should be talking about doctorates, we should be getting our brightest and best to be the ones that are exchanging ideas. Not that we should be looking, I think Nigeria has left that era of talking about WAEC, and we've left that era behind. Nigeria should be forward-looking right now. And the most important thing is, listen, 2019 for me, I believe is a watershed moment for Nigeria. We had, in 1959 general elections, we had a movement from colonial rule to civilian rule. 1979, we had a movement from military rule to civilian rule. 1999, we had a movement from military rule, once again, to what I call military and civilian clothes. Every 20 years, Nigeria has started anew. The next 20 years is 2019. We're starting a new Nigeria is coming.
All right. Fela Durotoye, presidential candidate of Alliance for New Nigeria, would like to thank you for being on Good Morning Nigeria today, and best of luck on the 16th of February.
Well, best of luck to all of us, because this is not about Fela, this is about us.
All right. Once again, Fela, thanks a lot for being with us on the program. So we're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll take another set of candidates, this time the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate of another party. Madam.